There we go, recording. We are in Torah Vav, Kra Et Yehoshua, part 10 and 11. Okay. We were speaking yesterday about this, how Rabbi Nachman says that this Torah explains the kavanot of Elul. So we have to see how that fits into the kavanot of Elul. Yesterday we spoke about what are the kavanot of Elul. We said that it's based on this pasuk that says that Hashem makes a pathway in the ocean, in the chaos of the ocean, in order to return us to Him, in order that we may find our way back to Him. And so that's the ocean represents the Malchut, and the pathway is representing these names of Hashem. The name of Hashem that called Sag 63. Yud Vav Ki written out in a certain way that comes out to 63. And then the name Kasa, which is 161, which is Ekye, Aleph Ke Yud Ke, written out in a certain way with Yuds, and that comes out to 161. And both of these names have the numerical value, the gematria of Derech, of the pathway. Okay? And then we said how, we spoke about how in this Torah we see that the Rabbi Nachman speaks about the two levels of expertise. The expertise in a place when a person is experiencing light, revelation, and the expertise when a person is experiencing darkness and concealment. And both of these, and the word for expertise is baki. Baki times two, because there's two levels of expertise, two types of expertise that a person needs for teshuvah. Baki times two equals derech, equals this pathway that Hashem creates for us, gives us to return to Him. We spoke about how these two names of Hashem that represent the derech, the pathway, have different vowels. They are written with different vowels. One of them, the Sag, the name of Hashem, that Yud Vav Ke written out, where it comes out to 63, Sag is written with a chirik, which is the dot underneath each one, which is one dot, and that has the numerical value of 100 because there's 10 letters in this name Sag, and 10 letters, each one of them has a dot underneath, which is like a yud, like a 10. So 10 times 10 is 100. Then the Kasa has also 10 letters, and that has the segol, which is the 3 dots, one next to each other and one underneath both of them in the middle. So 3 dots is 3 yuds, which is 30. Underneath 10 letters of the name Kasa, which is Aleph Ke Yud Ke written out with yuds. So 10 letters times 30 is 300. 300 and 100, 400. 400 is the numerical value of the gematria of Peshuta, outstretched. Hashem's right arm is outstretched to us, to accept us and to help us and to guide us back to Him in Teshuvah. And the word Yamin, which is the right, if you count the 3 letters of Derech, comes out to the numerical value of the gematria of Derech. So Yamin, when you write out Yamin, comes out to the same numerical value as Derech with the 3 letters. And so that's the Derech, that's the pathway through which we are returned to Hashem, even in the chaos of the ocean. How can we return the Malchut, which is represented by the ocean, and return the Malchut to Kadosh Baruch Hu? That is through Teshuvah, and the Teshuvah, the pathway to Teshuvah, is through these 2 levels of expertise. And so now let us see how all of this, how he explains it inside. ועתה בואו ראה והבן איך כל הכוונות הנ"ל מרומזים ונעלמים בדרך נפלא ונורא מאוד בתוך התורה הנ"ל, כי מבואר שם שמי שרוצה לעשות תשובה צריך שיהיה לו 2 בקיאות, היינו בקיא ברצו, בקיא בשוב שהוא בחינת עיל, ונפי בחינת אם השק שמיים שם עתה, שהוא בחינת בקיא ברצו, והציע שאול הנה שהוא בחינת בקיא בשוב, כמבואר לעיל עין שם. והפירוש הפשוט הוא שמי שרוצה ללך בדרכי התשובה צריך לחגור מותניו, שיתחזק עצמו בדרכי השם תמיד, בין בעלייה בין בירידה, שהם בחינת עם השק שמיים והציע שאול. היינו בין שיזכה לאיזה עלייה, לאיזה מדרגה גדולה, אף על פי כן על יעמוד שם ולא יסתפק עצמו בזה, צריך שיהיה בקיא בזה מאוד, לידע ולהאמין שהוא צריך ללכת יותר ויותר, שזהו בחינת בקיא ברצו, בחינת עיל, שהוא בחינת אם השק שמיים שם עתה, וכן להפך, שאפילו אם ייפול חס ושלום למקום שיפול אפילו בשעות תחתיות, גם כן אל יתייאש עצמו לעולם, ותמיד יחפש ויבקש אל השם יתברך, ויחזק עצמו בכל מקום שהוא, בכל מה שיוכל, כי גם בשעות תחתיות נמצא השם יתברך, וגם שם יכולים לדבק את עצמו אליו יתברך, וזה בחינת בעשייה שאול הנקה, וזה בחינת בקיא בשוב, כי אי אפשר ללך בדרכי התשובה, כי אם כשבקיא בשני הבקיאות האלו. So he says, what we learned in the Torah is kind of like summarizing what we learned in this Torah until now, that when a person wants to do teshuvah, he needs to summon all of his strength to constantly connect to Hashem, no matter what state he is in, whether he's in a state of being elevated, of ascending, or in a state of descending, in a state of revelation, in a state of light, or in a state of darkness, in a state of concealment. He must always strengthen himself, summon all of his strength to connect to Hashem and not fall into the ego trap at that place, at that time. So the ego trap, when a person is in a place of ascending, when a person is in the light, is that a person attributes that ascending, that achievement to himself. And he thinks that he has already reached a certain level in his closeness to Hashem, and by attributing it to himself and thinking that it's from his own doing, he feels like he can kind of relax. And so he falls into that ego, and then that's disconnecting him and separating him and distancing him from Hashem. That's the ego trap in the level of light, in the place of light. Well, so what does a person do? He realizes that he didn't even begin to connect to Hashem. He didn't even begin to get close to Hashem, because Hashem is infinite and limitless, and there are limitless and infinite levels, and Hashem is infinitely transcendent. And therefore, he continues to strengthen himself to seek Hashem beyond what he has ever imagined is possible up until now. And this is, Rabbi Nachman said, hinted to, represented to in this pasuk in Tehillim, that said that if I ascend to the high heavens, you are beyond, you are there. So you are there means that you are beyond me. And that when I have a level, when I ascend to the highest levels, I realize that you are still beyond me. I haven't achieved any level of real closeness to you, next to, relative to how transcendent you actually are. And then the second level is when a person is experiencing concealment and darkness. So the ego trap over there is kind of like an aversion to the light. It's kind of like a person falls into self-pity and sadness and grief, apathy, despair, and all of these negative emotions where a person feels that he is disconnected, that he is far from Hashem. But far from Hashem and disconnected, those feelings are completely distancing him from Hashem. What they are, it's an ego trap also. It's part of the ego, where a person is also here in this place. Also, what he is doing is he is increasing his sense of a separate being from Hashem. He's increasing what's called Yeshut. Yeshut is that separateness, that physical being, that I am separate from Hashem. That whole story that we tell ourselves, that whole illusion of being separate from Hashem. And by falling into the apathy and the despair and the grief and the sadness and saying that he is far from Hashem and that Hashem is not even looking at him and he has no hope and how is he ever going to reconnect, right? All of these depressed feelings. So what he is doing is he has this whole story about himself being separate from Hashem, being a separate being. But the tikkun at that point is to contemplate the fact that even in that dark place where he feels disconnected, where he feels that nobody cares about him, where Hashem doesn't care about him, and he doesn't have any hope to return to Hashem, even in that place, Hashem is absolutely present with him, absolutely here, and hasn't given up on him. And so that's how he fixes and saves himself from the ego trap at that point. Okay, and so this is represented in a second half of that pasuk in Tehillim that says, "V'atziyah she'ol hineka," that when I descend into the depths of darkness, you are here. What does it mean you are here? It's not that you are there, like we said when a person is ascending. It's you are here. You are absolutely present, even in this dark place that I don't feel so much the closeness to you, but I know, and I'm certain, and I'm confident that even though I don't feel this way, I know that you are here. Okay, and Rabbi Nachman says that for a person to be successful in his teshuvah, he needs to be an expert in knowing how to connect to Hashem in these two stages, because all of life comes down to these two types of relationship with Hashem, these two types of experience, either experience of light or experience of darkness. ודקדק רבנו זיכרונו לברכה, וקרא עניין זה בלשון בקיא, כי היא בקיאות גדולה מאוד מאוד, שיזכה לדע להגיע עצמו ולתרוח בעבודת השם תמיד ולצפות בכל עת, להגיע למדרגה גבוהה יותר, ואף על פי כן אל ייפול משום דבר, ואפילו יהיה איך שיהיה, חס ושלום אף על פי כן אל ייפול בדעתו כלל, ויקיים והציע שאול הנה ככנ"ל. And Rabbi Nachman calls these two states, he calls this an expertise, because he says it's really an expertise to be able to know how in every situation to work, to actually seek Hashem, and to work in serving Hashem in greater and greater ways, in clearer ways, to connect to Hashem in a clearer way, constantly, to always seek to connect to Hashem in a clearer way, in a deeper way, in a better way, and to serve Him even in greater ways that are even beyond what I've ever imagined or thought possible, even beyond what I ever thought was part of serving Hashem. Maybe up until now I had certain limitations of what I thought serving Hashem and connecting to Hashem and having a relationship with Hashem was all about. But now, because I'm not just satisfied with whatever achievement I have, but I'm constantly seeking to connect to Hashem in even greater and deeper ways, and I see that everything, and I act as if everything that I have achieved up until now is nothing. I haven't even begun to connect to Hashem. So that bittul, that nullification, creates the vessel for broadening the horizons, for opening myself up to new possibilities of connecting to Hashem and developing an even deeper and greater and clearer relationship with Hashem. It's not just 1% better than I was yesterday. It's when I'm constantly in a place of zero, I constantly feel myself in a place of zero, forgetting everything that was, then I open myself up every day in exponentially greater possibilities of connecting to Hashem. It's not just a 1% greater based on the foundations that I built yesterday. It's beyond that. It's beyond that because I am bringing myself back to that 0 point. I'm nullifying the ego. I'm nullifying that yeshut. So that's a tremendous expertise to know how to do that. And at the same time, if and when a person is not successful in that, because a person is not always successful in achieving that, in reaching that a person should not fall in spirits, and a person should not fall in sadness or grief or depression or apathy or whatever other negative emotions if and when he is not successful in this. And so that's the expertise. So in every situation, you're connecting to Hashem. In every situation, you're finding Hashem. And in every situation, you are protected from the falling into the ego. And instead, you are connecting to Hashem from that place. And therefore, it's two levels of expertise, as we said. דיינו בקיא ברצו, בקיא בשוב, על ידי זה זוכה לדרך התשובה, כי שתי פעמים בקיא, שהם בחינת שתי פעמים יבוא כנ"ל, עולה בגימטריה הדרך, כנ"ל, כי על פי הכוונות נעשה זה הדרך בחינת סגו לקסה וחירגי דסג, שהם בחינת שני פעמים יבוא כנזכר לאלה, וזה בעצמו סוד בחינת שני הבקיות הנ"ל, כי בקיא ברצו שהוא בחינת עסק שמיים, וזה בחינת סגו לקסה, כי עסק אותיות קסה, ובקיא בשוב, זהו שהוא בחינת והציע שאול הנה כזה, בחינת חירק דסג, מלשון אל תשג, גבול עולם, שהוא בחינת שמשיג גבולו מחזירו לאחוריו, שזה בחינת ירידה, שהאדם נופל חס ושלום. שזה בחינת ירידה, שהאדם נופל חס ושלום ממדרגתו, והוא נסוג אחור, חס ושלום. אף על פי כן יחזק את עצמו ואל יתייאש עצמו לעולם, וגם שם נמצא השם יתברך בחינת ויציאה שעוד הנה ככנ"ל, וזה בחינת שמסג כנ"ל. So he explains that we said that the pathway to Teshuvah, the pathway of returning the ocean, the Malchut, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is made through these two names of Hashem, which represent the two levels of expertise. The name of Hashem that is Kasa, and the name of Hashem which is Sag. Kasa, we said, is Aleph Ke Yud Ke written out with Yuds, and Sag is Yud Ke Vav Ke written out in a certain way that has the numerical value of 63, Sag. So we explained before that the two levels of expertise are hinted to in this pasuk. It's the level of expertise when a person is ascending, and it's hinted to in the pasuk, represented in the pasuk of when I ascend, there you are, you're beyond, you're transcendent. So the word in that pasuk for ascending, im esak shamayim, esak is the word for ascending, if I shall ascend. So that word esak, aleph samech kuf, is the same letters as the name kasa, kuf samech aleph. Just opposite, it's just turned around. And that's the name of Hashem, of Aleph Ke Yud Ke, written out with Yuds. So says Rabbi Nachman, Rabbi Natan is explaining that name of Hashem, we said that the pathway is made from the two names of Kasa and Sag, and they represent the two levels of expertise. The level of expertise a person must have when he is ascending is represented by the name Kasa. And that's hinted to by the fact that in the pasuk, when it speaks about ascending, it uses the word esak, which is the same letters as kasa. Whereas the other name of Hashem, the name Sag, represents the level of expertise a person must have when he is in a descent, when he has fallen. And the way that Rabbi Natan shows us that he says that the word Sag is a source. It's the source, it's the foundation of a word called Laseget Achor, Al Taseg Givul Olam. He brings a few psukim that uses this word, Sag, to mean falling back. Okay? So, Nasog Achor. Okay? And so that one is when a person is in falling state or falling back state, in a descent, in a darkness, in a concealment, and then the name of Hashem that a person is connecting to when he strengthens himself, even in that place to connect to Hashem, is the name called Sag. Samech Gimel. Yud Ke Vav Ke written out in a certain way has this numerical value of Samech Gimel, 63. So these two names are representing the two levels of expertise. Ascending is Kasa, and descending is Sag. And then he says that's also going to be what we spoke about before, the sun and the moon. So the sun, we said, represents Moshe Rabbeinu. The moon represents Yehoshua. The sun represents, and Moshe Rabbeinu represents the Yud on the top of the Aleph, and Yehoshua represents the Yud on the bottom of the Aleph. The moon represents the Yud on the bottom of the Aleph. And so these 2 points of the Aleph, the top of the Aleph and the bottom of the Aleph, are representing the 2 levels of expertise. The sun is going to be the level of Moshe Rabbeinu, the level of ascending, the level of expertise that even when I ascend to the greatest heights, I recognize that Hashem is beyond, Hashem is still infinitely transcendent, and I haven't even begun to connect to Him, to have a relationship with Him relative to the potential that is possible right here, right now. And then Yehoshua is that even in the darkness and the depths of darkness, I know that Hashem is with me, even where I am here, right now, in every moment. In my state that I am in, I must know that Hashem is infinitely present with me. Okay, so that's what he's going to say now. כיסא גולדה חמה שהוא הנקודה העליונה שעל האלף, הנחלקת לשלוש טיפין שבחינת עסק שמיים, בחינת סגול דקסה, שהוא אותיות עסק כנ"ל, וחיריק הוא בחינת נקודה התחתונה של האלף, שהוא בחינת בהציע שאול הינקה, שהוא בחינת חיריק דסג. So now he says that the three dots that we said was underneath the name of Kasa, which represents the Yud on the top of the Aleph. The Kasa is the ascending. Those three dots represent the three dots that the Zohar says make up the Yud on the top of the Aleph. So it fits in perfectly with the Kavanah. The Kavanah tells us, the Kavanah of the Arizal tells us that when you have this Kavanah of the name Yud, of the name Aleph Ke Yud Ke, written out with Yuds, the name that has the numerical value of Kasa, 161, you should see it with a vowel of Segel, which is the three dots underneath each one of these 10 letters. And we are now saying that that name is representing the top of the Aleph, the Yud on the top of the Aleph. So says Rabbi Natan, it fits perfectly with what the Zohar says, that the Yud on the top of the Aleph is made up of three dots. Rabbi Nachman mentioned that at the beginning of this Torah. He said that Yud on the top of the Aleph is when you reach Teshuvah. Through the Yud on the bottom of the Aleph and the Yud on the top of the Aleph, you come to the state of Teshuvah, which is the light that sits upon this throne. And that light that sits upon this throne, this Teshuvah, is made up of 3 points. Because Teshuvah has 3 points, and there was a pasuk that Rabbi Nachman spoke about, that a person will see properly, a person will hear properly, and a person's heart will feel properly. Those are the 3 aspects of a proper Teshuvah, and that's what represents the 3 dots on the top of the Aleph. Whereas, says Rabbi Nachman, Rabbi Natan is explaining that the bottom of the Aleph that has a Yud, right? The Yud of the bottom of the Aleph is representing this name of Hashem called Sag, Yud Kivav Ki, written out in a way that has the numerical value of 63. And that Sag is, you're supposed to see it, intend, focus, and contemplate, meditate on it with the vowel of chirik, which is the 1 dot underneath each one of these 10 letters. So he explains that the dot underneath the letter, this 1 dot underneath the letter, represents, as we spoke before, the footstool. Okay, that's the representing Yehoshua. It's being silent in the place of insult, being silent and returning to peace in a place of adversity. And that's what this dot on the bottom of the Aleph represents. We explained here how it fits the 2 levels of expertise, the top of the Aleph and the bottom of the Aleph. I think this is a good place to stop for today, B'ezrat Hashem.